Welcome back to Bull Fierce Live. Tonight is going to be the premiere, first episode of a series that I'd like to start doing. This will be every Friday at 6:30, and what we'll be doing is interviewing people who have either made a tremendous contribution or have made have an incredible story to tell, or just basically people who have an interest in natural training and have had a journey that they want to share with us. Because the whole idea of this platform is to take natural training to another level. It's been ebbing below, the main flow of fitness and bodybuilding circuits for far too long. It's time to get people involved, tell their stories, show people that you can win, going the drug-free route. And I'm looking for individuals who are willing to come on and share their story. It's all it's going to take is to have a computer with a mic and an internet connection, and we can do a live stream right where you are. So if you are interested, please contact me and we can go on from there. We're going to start tonight with myself, and I will be back in a moment and we'll get on with it. Welcome back. Anyways, before we go any further, I just also want to say a couple more things. Going to be fidgeting around here, trying out a few new things with this streaming software. Do a little screen sharing tonight. I want to show you a few pictures. I wish I had more when I'm talking about a certain segment of my story, unfortunately, but I do have a few pictures to show you that you might find of interest and certainly validate the story that I'm about to tell you. Also, just want to remind people that, if you really want to support natural training and natural fitness and bodybuilding and just those who endeavor to, improve themselves without taking drugs, tonight I won't be getting on my soapbox to discuss, the hardships and the problems that drugs have brought into our sport and our lifestyle. But for tonight, we're going to celebrate my story, and I hope next week I'll be able to hear from a few people and line up somebody else, and we would like to make this a regular broadcast every Friday. So anyways, like I said, if there's a little bit of glitches as we move along, please bear with me. I'm going to be switching screens occasionally, but that's a little bit further down the line. So with no further ado, why don't I just give you a start at the beginning. I'm going to center my story mainly on my last, since 2011, but I'm going to give you a rundown of my past history. Started my interest in bodybuilding, literally started at the age of 6 years old. Sent away for those ads in the back of books at that point. Joe Weider had an ad, Charles Atlas had an ad. There's another company called Universal something. Anyways, I sent away to all these places, thinking that I was going to become a Mr. Universe. Of course, never heard of Mr. Olympia at that time, and Arnold wasn't even a blip on the screen, believe it or not. There was other individuals back then called Freddie Ortiz, Chuck Sipes, Dave Draper. Actually, Dave Draper was from Long Journey. Arnold's there too, but John Grimmick, names that most people wouldn't even identify with. But these were Harold Poole. Quick little bit of trivia. Those people out there probably haven't got a clue who Harold Poole is. Harold Poole was the first man that ever did what we now call the modern day most muscular. Originally, it was actually called the crab pose. It was Harold Poole I forget where his audience was. I do believe it was in New York somewhere. And he did a most muscular, a crab pose at the time, and freaked a whole bunch of people out. And it was coined a crab at that point, and so forth. There was history. Anyways, back to myself. So here I was, 6 years old, and I saw some picture somewhere of some guys with muscle, and that was it. Like, I was hooked. I wanted to be that. Of course, it wasn't to be. A little bit of background. Didn't exactly have I had a great family life. Lots of brothers and sisters. 8 brothers and sisters. So there was 9 kids in the family. Um, Great, wonderful mother. Not so wonderful father. But no matter how negative the situation is, there's always something to be gleaned, even from a bad situation. So, in spite of not having the greatest father of all, probably one of the all-time worst, to be honest with you, um, I got taught a few things that carry with me through life, and I'm appreciative of that, especially now. Anyway, so moving forward from there, I didn't get to pursue my dream at 6 years old because my father decided that if I wanted muscles, I can go outside and work on the end of a shovel, which he did, and numerous other things. But moving forward, I participated in football and baseball and hockey, did all those things, did them well. I excelled at hockey. I definitely had the skills and the talent to make it into the major leagues. And when I was a young boy, from the age of like 10 or 9 or 10 up to 14, which is when my father stopped paying for hockey, I exhibited great skills. I had opportunities to play on the competitive teams and the competitive leagues, but my father would have nothing to do with it, so I didn't get to do it. Then he passed away at the age of 14. And in spite of all the terrible things he had done, it was a very sad day. When you have a mother who still has a lot of young kids at home, you don't know how you're going to survive. Da, 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 da. Anyways, to be quite honest with you, it was probably one of the darkest periods of my life. I basically came completely unwound at the age of 14 and wanted nothing to do with people telling me what to do and watching over me because I had nothing with my father. Now that he was gone, I had nothing to do with it. So I got into drinking and drugs and you name it. And before long, I was a mess. I was a mess. I didn't care to really go to school, hung out with the wrong guys. Physically, I looked terrible. I was smoking. You name it, I was getting into it. Uh, I did have certain morals built into me. I mean, I wasn't going out and stealing stuff, and I wasn't beating up people. I was just basically destroying myself, and that's what was going on. And then I was lucky enough at the age of 16, 15 actually, to meet a young lady, and we had a relationship for almost 7 years, I do believe. Changed completely. Somewhere around the age of 17, she basically told me that if I didn't smarten up, that there wouldn't be any more relationship. So on a trip down to Florida, we took a trip down to Florida to visit my sister. And this young lady who I went out with at the point was a very good looking girl. Uh, she always got lots of attention, never had to do anything to look the way she looked. She was just one of those girls that had a natural hourglass body and very large breasts, a pretty face, and she had it all. What she saw in me is just beyond me, to be honest with you. Until I started training and taking care of myself, I was a mess. But she did, and before long, anyways, went down to Florida, and she was getting hit on by all these older guys. Older guys, what I mean is, late 20s, early 30s, and I was getting PO'd, to be honest with you. And when I came back from there, I don't know, it was about a week or two later, I I came across a circumstance that got me into this gym, which was then the first Nautilus club that ever opened up in Ottawa. And I started training there. And from there was no turning back. By the time I reached 18, I had, I had dropped all the excess weight. I wasn't smoking. Was barely having a drink other than socially to go out with my girlfriend. That was about it. I trained. That's what I did. I trained. I worked. To be honest with you, I wasn't even working that much. I was still a bit of a bum, to be honest with you. But at the age of 18, I did start a job at that point. It was with Pure Later Courier, which I did for a total of 21 years of my life. So I did have stickability and things. Um, yeah. So, anyways, I started training, and by the time at 18, I actually went into a show. I shouldn't have ever gone into it, but I was training with a fellow over in the. I don't know if you guys are aware of the geography or not, but Hull, Quebec, and Ottawa are basically, right beside each other. And I was training actually mainly at gyms in Hull because there was the only place they had like private gyms. I had gone from the Nautilus Club to training in my basement for almost half a year, to training at the YMCA, and I have some funny stories. Maybe sometime in the future I tell you about those training places, but they weren't all that great. And then finally got a chance to train at some real gyms, but they kept opening and closing and opening and closing, and finally ended up at the Ottawa Athletic Club. But anyways, in the process of training at those gyms over on the Quebec side, I decided a friend of mine, a French fellow, Jean-Marc Goulet, yeah, Jean-Marc, that's it. Anyways, he wanted to go into this show called the Can-Am Championships, which I do still believe are actually still going today. He had gone in once before, and this was down in Watertown. It was on the state side. But we went down, and it was kind of my first inkling when I saw that guys, around my age and even younger, that were, you know, they just looked far more advanced than I did. And I couldn't imagine anybody training any harder or working any harder. So it was my first little bit of realization, that people were doing other stuff in order to grow muscle. But needless to say, I did the show, but I didn't make the evening show. It was very disappointing because I had family members that went down there and everything else, and I didn't handle it well. And it was a learning experience, not the greatest learning experience. So, anyways, moving forward from there, I had another year and a half. And then they came out with the Ottawa Bodybuilding Championships for the first time. I thought, great. So I do believe I was 19 years old. First time I went into the Ottawa Bodybuilding Championships. And did that show, came in third. Both guys in front of me that year were definitely using drugs. So were pretty much all the winners. And it was just a little bit more of a realization. But, I decided I wasn't going that route. I was fighting it. So then at 20 years old, I went in again. And once again, I placed third. And I was getting a little bit frustrated. So anyways, people talk. That was the first time that, back in those days, the talk about drugs was so much more isolated. It was nothing like it is right now. It was very hush hush. And the consequences of using drugs was far more severe. And I'm not talking about the medical consequences or the psychological consequences. I'm talking about the legal consequences. Even though they are quite hard now, the thing is, so much that people get away with, it's ridiculous. But anyways, I did that show, placed third. All the winners were using, and then me and a core group of guys, we were all kind of sitting there and thinking, we train hard, if not harder, at least as hard and harder than just about everybody we knew. And yet we could always place near the top, but we couldn't seem to win. So a few of us, and this is the first time I've ever told anybody this outside of my close friends. It was the time that this is how I learned about drugs and about what they could do. It was the beginning steps, and I'm glad I went through it. And without a word of a lie, this is what I did. So, anyways, I did that show, but I want to show you, if I can. I'm hoping this works out. I want to do a little bit of screen sharing here, and I want to show you a picture of myself after. That's not the one I want to show you, that's for sure. Let's give you a little further along here. We are going to probably not going to be best, that's the clearest. But if you can see that picture, I see the gentleman above, his name is Stuart Bain. him and I met, and very early on in life, became very good friends. That's a picture of me after 2000 and when I was 19 years old. Completely natural and just training hard. And the gym that I was training at that point was just the YMCA, and it was very rudimentary. Nothing like the posh gyms that we have now to train at. But anyway, so that was me prior to me wanting to move ahead. And so, anyways, the third year I was getting to you in the story, I decided, you know what? There were some people that talked and they said, well, if you want to try some stuff, well, we can try some stuff. So, as much as I hated to admit it at that point, I did. But this is not a word of a lie. This is what I did. And I really thought that I was going like overboard. I thought I was a complete sellout, but it's compared to what today is going on, it was actually laughable. Most people would say they're still natural doing what I did. But I I was given, and I couldn't even, I didn't know how to give a needle or anything else. It was like, so there was this guy that had been around for years. He was doing, he was helping out a few of the young guys. What I mean by helping out is he was showing them how to do a few things. Anyways, he gave me my injections, and all I was taking, honest to God, I started with a half a cc of decadravelin a week. And I didn't do any off-season. I didn't do any bulking, any growing, any strength work whatsoever. This is not a word of a lie. 12 weeks before the show, I go on a cycle. And my cycle is start off with a half a cc of decadravelin. I did that for a month. So for 4 of the weeks, that's all I took. And then I did 1 cc for the next 4 weeks. And when I did I think the second 4 weeks, I threw in 1 5 milligram tablet of Danabol a day. That was my whole regime. But the funny part about it is here I am, I'm on a diet of, I kid you not, just straight white chicken breast or tuna out of a can, nothing else, and oranges. Learning experience all the way, right? So I had no chance to gain any strength, any real size. I was just trying to hold on to, what I had attained. Anyways, I did that. And on top of that, that was the first year. Actually, that was now going to be the third year. I go down to Florida. I made a habit of taking time off from work just before the show. So 3 weeks before the show, I would go down to Florida, visit my sister and train and suntan, all that. Didn't use any tanning agents. I always came back. I was darker than some of the African American guys. Little funny story there I might be able to tell you in this video. I'll let you know a little later on. But anyways, I always came back darkly tanned, so I never used any tanning agents. Anyways, I came back. So because I was so afraid of getting caught with just that little bit of stuff, I stopped. So here I am almost a month before the show, and I'm not taking anything. So I had 8 weeks to go on for the show, no bulking, no nothing. And I have to tell you, this is why, when I have some other discussions later on, I tell you that, and everybody tells you, that the stuff is, it barely makes a difference. It doesn't do this. Well, here I was on such a little amount of nothing, and that is nothing. Let me tell you, I can direct you to some YouTube videos. You can listen to guys talk openly about what they take. It's just scary. That was nothing. And I was on a severe diet, severe calorically restricted, plus the constituent. And I got stronger and better throughout the whole process. Just to show you, I'm not really ever one of the stronger guys in the gym. Never have been. I have very small joints, small waist, decently wide shoulders. So everything, I always looked bigger than I was, especially on stage, because I had the flaring joints. But I never had that stability in the frame to be tremendously strong, squatting and things like that. But this is not a word of a lie. I used to struggle before then to get up to 315 on a back squat. To get 5 or 6 reps in on a back squat at 315. Well, near the end of that cycle, here I am on this pathetic diet, on a very minimal amount of anabolics at that point, certainly nothing else. And I went in one day. I remember this workout so fondly. I went in and I started off and I did leg extensions. I used to hate leg extensions, but I was able to do like in no time at all. I was able to work out almost double the amount of weight I was using on leg extensions. And I used to always do my squatting first because that's so I would be the strongest, but I did it differently today. Did my leg extensions at almost double the weight I ever did. I then went on to hack squats, did another 2, 3 sets at a super heavy weight for me. And then I went over to squat. And without a word of a lie, I was able to pound out 405 for 6 reps. In that little period of time, 8 weeks on a restricted diet. So no one had to tell me whether this stuff worked or not. Of course, I didn't know how to use it properly. So, but the good news was I came back so sliced to ribbons. I had cross striations in areas that guys these days, they talk about cross striating glutes and all that and hamstrings. I had all that back then. So that was in 1981. Before any of these super ripped guys ever came along, I had all that. I was ripped to shreds. I mopped the floor with those guys. I also won Best Poser Award at the show. So that showed to me, the stuff was incredible. But it had a negative influence. I mean, I could feel the negativity, negative stuff. And on top of that, it bothered me. It bothered me that I used anything at all. I felt bad about it. But anyways, I went completely off because I thought that's what everybody did. I still thought that's what everybody did. I just trained naturally the whole rest of the year, and I got ready for the next shows. Anyway, so when I was doing the next season, I was doing my preparations, and once again, this time I was probably out 16 weeks when I started, and I made incredible gains. I was on a higher calorie diet, but I was still eating almost the same things. I had never used anything to bulk up or get stronger, but I was getting stronger during the phase until those last few weeks. Because once again, this time I went down to South Carolina. So almost a month out from the show, I was taking nothing. And before then, my max on here was a cc and a half of Deca-Rab a week and 2 tabs of Danabol. That was it. That's the most I ever took in my life. But this was the defining moment for me. This is when I learned that I was never going to be going this route. I learned in a way that it wasn't horrendous, but it hit home with me. It just resonated so strongly. I went, I was down there getting prepped. I was looking great. I was by myself, so very isolated. But I was living in a house with my sister's, a friend of my sister's, this lady that was working for her. And when I got there, this woman was sick. She had the flu. Lucky me, I pick up the flu when I'm there. So I get there, I'm in razor sharp condition. I'm a few weeks out from the show. Still, I'm off all my stuff, so I'm stupid as I was, I'm still in great condition. And, I'm still weighing in, like from the previous year competing, I'm up almost 20 pounds. 20 pounds. Anyways, I just had, by the time I was within a few days of the show, I came back, I think 3 days prior to that show, I could just feel my body just deflating. I was getting softer. I mean, literally, I was just losing it in front of my eyes, and it was so hard to take. I still went through with it. I still did the show. But after that show, I sat down and I said to myself, this is not what you signed up for. Yeah? This is not what you signed up for. Look what you're doing. Little did I know how little I was taking, but still, in my mind and in the mind of my buddies back then, they all did the same thing. They all stopped. Most of them never competed again. Some of them didn't even do real bodybuilding yet. I continued for the rest of my life. But I said to myself, what are you doing this for? Not the training, not the diet. There's any drugs at all. It says, you don't feel any pride about it. You're risking your health. And all that hard work just went down the toilet just because of a situation that you had no control over. And that was it. I was 21, and I never touched the thing ever since. There's been times, where I'm thinking, I go, boy, I had potential. I had great potential. I mean, really, I had the mindset. I had good genetics. I didn't have the best muscle lengths, but many people with not the best muscle lengths have won Mr. Olympia. I had the mindset for it, and I had the drive. So, in the back of my mind, I always thought, geez, I wonder how I could have. But in the end, I'm proud of the fact that I never looked back, and it taught me a lesson, and I've been preaching to the choir ever since. There's no way I was ever going to go back to be doing that stuff. Preaching natural, pushing natural, taking, being appreciative of other naturals, getting sick into my stomach listening to fake naturals. Anyways, so it had a very, very big impact on me. So here I was at that point. I was only 21, 22, really just beginning my journey. So I didn't get any real long-lasting gains because I can tell you right now, when I went off those cycles, you literally deflate. And I went from bodybuilding training to other styles, but I still was weight training. I was doing other forms of it, but I stayed with it my whole life. And therefore, I returned to my natural state, for many years. And then, when I turned 27, 26 or 27, that's when I decided to get back on stage again. And I knew I was doing it natural. There was no two ways about it. And I may have mentioned this in a previous video or not. I'm not too sure. But I got ready for that show. I was always lean. I was staying lean all year round. I never tried to get stronger or bigger. I just focused in on getting tighter and tighter and tighter. So I wasn't the biggest guy on stage, but I cleaned the floor with them again. Completely clean, and I know they weren't. And I felt so good. That was actually my second most satisfying win. But it was a very satisfying win considering what I had done before and came back and showed that you can win shows and produce a tremendous physique if you stick with it. So I was 27 years old, so about 1987 at that point. And I continued along. 2 years later, I decided to go back to university, and I went to university, and I was not competing anymore, but still training hard. And then at 35 years old, the year I was graduating, I decided that I'm going back on stage again. And that was the year that I first dipped my toe in the pool of HIT style training. And I completely reversed everything and did minimal amount of sets, all out intensity. And I literally was training a total of 2.5 hours a week. That's what it worked out to. Every second day, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, nothing else. 40 to 45 minutes in the gym itself, and done. I learned about, I had been doing a lot of studying and learned about carbohydrates and everything else. So much more rounder, so much more filled in. And I cleaned up at the Alberta Bodybuilding, the Provincial Bodybuilding Championships. That was the first year they drug tested it. It was the last year I ever competed. And for this reason, it was the first year they drug tested everything. The other 3 class winners all tested positive, and yet they still gave the overall title to the heavyweight winner. And I was so disgusted, that was it. Did not compete again. Still trained, and I still continue to train till this day. But moving way, way forward, this is where my story gets very interesting. In 2011, I had been married for a few years. It wasn't the best marriage. There was problems. There was lots of stress there. There's also going through problems with a business, actually 2 businesses at that point. The first one, when I actually met my wife, it was a case of, people just basically leaving town on me, leaving me hanging. And then the second one was while we were together. And it was lots of stress. So between that and the marriage itself, I had no other risk factors, no high blood pressure, no high cholesterol. I barely had a drink. I didn't smoke. I didn't do drugs. And I had a severe heart attack. 49 years old. 49 years old, or 50. No, I just turned 50. That was, at that point, it was the scariest point in my life. My father died of a heart attack at 55. Here I was at 50. The only guy in the family to ever take care of himself and train. And But I pushed myself in other areas that a lot of people don't, and it caught up with me. But backtrack just a little bit. Literally 6 months before that, with all the things going wrong, I decided I was going to go back to my faith, and I'd always believed in God and Jesus Christ. And if this part of the video, the stream is not for you, I'm not going to apologize because it is a big part of me. It's a big part of who I am today. Anyways, I had started reading the Bible and saying prayers and going back to church 6 months before I had my heart attack. And when I had my heart attack, for some reason, there was a lot of anger that just dissipated. It was gone. I wasn't able to get upset or angry with things. I just had a whole different outlook. And I wasn't blaming God for doing what he did. How it affected me, because my training it had a few ups and downs through the course of the marriage, and but I was still training. But anyways, for almost a month, I didn't know if I should or could train anymore, and I was scared because this is something I'm doing my whole life, something I love to do. It was what made me me. So, anyways, after about a month, I decided I'm going to do some training, and I bought a set of power blocks, and I bought a bench, and I just started doing some rudimentary stuff at home. And in not too long a period of time, I'd say probably 2 months of doing that, I mean, there were certain things I noticed were different. I didn't have the same cardiovascular capacity, because in spite of being a bodybuilder, I prided myself in the fact that I was very well conditioned. I definitely noticed the difference there. So, I just had to be aware of it. And I worked through it, and I was able to build my physique back up. And then about a few months later, I went back to a gym, and I just began training again. So, you think, well, that's interesting, it's la-di-da-di-da. Well, we got into another problem with that company that I had at that point. So there was more stress, but anyways, it wasn't bothering me. But I started a trucking company up in Fort McMurray, and I'd gone from one truck to three trucks inside of 2 years. So I took a lot on. I was working long hours, but I was training up there. I was taking care of myself, living in a trailer. It was not the best lifestyle, but I was trying to get ahead. I was trying to build a business. And anyways, everything fell apart in Fort McMurray in 2015. And then 2016, I was on the road down in Brandon, Manitoba. I'd gone down at one point, I was at 5 trucks, I was down to one truck. And I got sick. Didn't know what it was. I got sick. But luckily, I was literally only 5 minutes away from Brandon Hospital when it happened. So this was early June of 2016. Somewhere around the 23rd or something like that. Anyways, I had pulled off. I had called my wife and told her that at the time I was married. I told her that I wasn't feeling well and I was going to park for the night because I'd come from Winnipeg and I was heading back to Edmonton area. And I'm glad that I did, because if I had gone any further, I was going to go into an area where there was no cell phone, no nothing, and I would have been dead. And anyways, turned out I had an extremely, extremely brutal case of pancreatitis. And I don't even know how I managed to even call 911. I could barely see. I was outside. I was throwing up on the ground. I couldn't get myself off the ground, even though there was other trucks there. It looked like it seemed like nobody knew I was out there doing that, and nobody came to help. When the ambulance showed up, I was lying flat on the ground, just trying to wave my arm in the air so they'd see me. Got me to the hospital, and for the first 2 weeks, all they could do is I wasn't allowed to eat. I wasn't allowed to drink. I got a few bits of ice every once in a while. I was in a state of delirium, and they had me so pumped full of painkillers. All they were doing was waiting to see if I was going to live or die. That's all they could do. And anyways, I got through that. So as I'm telling you this, I want to reflect back and see that, when I had my heart attack, doctors told me I was very lucky to be alive. And then I have this, and I survived this, and I know full well that if I wasn't half the man I was physically, I never would have made it through these things. So I owe it all to my training. But anyways, moving forward, so I was in Brandon Hospital for a month, and basically came down to the point where, you know, couldn't stay in Brandon forever. We had a house, animals to take care of. We had to get out of there. So they didn't really want me to leave, but they told me I had to get checked into, University Hospital as soon as I got to Edmonton. So I got on a regular commercial flight. I couldn't even hold myself up. I had drains hanging out of me. Anyways, we went down there, and scary as it was, I went in there that night. They kept me that night, and they actually sent me home the next day, which is just ludicrous. And documentation from the surgeons at Brandon Hospital telling me that I needed to be hospitalized and I needed to be, this, that, and the other thing. Anyways, moving forward, I was home for about 2 weeks, 3 weeks. They decided to schedule to do a procedure, endoscopic procedure, which they did. They said I'd feel like $1,000,000 after that. The next day, I wasn't feeling like $1,000,000. I wasn't even feeling like 50 cents. And 3 days later, I was in the hospital once again, not knowing whether I was going to make it or not. Anyways, I managed to get stable, but I was on high dosage of a painkiller, morphine derivative. And somewhere about October 24th, 23rd, they decided to do a procedure on me. It was supposed to be not super high risk, but anyways, it was just another endoscopic procedure. But during that procedure, they accidentally caused some type of a puncture, and they hadn't realized it at the time. And 2 hours later, they were calling my wife and telling her she better get to the hospital because they didn't think I was going to live. Anyway, she got there, and I was on life support. And anyways, I don't even remember who I was for a good month, 2 months. I had no idea who I was, but somehow or another, it's my own gut effort, and obviously the help of the good Lord, I made it through. Not easily and not well, but I made it through. Tons of procedures after. Anyways, what had happened when they did that, when they left me, I left at a small, major part. One, I actually ended up, when they did the endoscopic procedure and my wife went home, that's when they called and they said they had to do emergency surgery. So what they had done is they literally had to take me into surgery, open me up right away. They ended up taking out most of my pancreas and there was just a whole lot of damage done by the seepage that the surgeon had caused by the puncture. That's what left me on life support. And moving on from there, anyways, I was in hospital, and I was in hospital all the way until the end of November, almost early December of 2016. So I got out. When I left the hospital, I still had 3 of these drains hanging out of me. I'm going to just split to the other screen there again, and I'm going to see if I can show you a picture. This is let's just get down the size. That one, I had 3 of those hanging out of my stomach. You don't see the major incision at that point. That one that I had. This is a picture of me probably a couple of months after I got out of the hospital. But this, I want you to see this picture. This is a picture of me, and what you're seeing in front of you is not a big belly. What you're seeing is massive hernia. You can notice that all throughout there. That's one incision. And this is how I looked. Pardon this, anyways, but this is how I looked when I got out of the hospital. I got into the hospital at 230 pounds. And 230 pounds, and I did not have a muscle left on my body. Terrible. Sticks for legs. I rolled over in bed. I actually brought tears to my eyes because all my ligaments and joints were gone. Everything. I'd gone from a bodybuilder to this. And very little of it was because of the disease, it was because of the surgical procedures. At that point, I had several endoscopic and one invasive procedure and numerous other procedures done on me. So needless to say, I had very low self-esteem. I did not like. I think I aged about 10 years. Throughout that process. Anyways, yeah. So let me just cut back over here. Get off that screen. Go back to this. Anyways, so here I was. I got out of the hospital, and I was at home, and they were hoping that what I had was they had two sections of my pancreas. One section was still intact, and the other part was just basically hanging out there. But they had to remove a whole bunch of good pancreas and bad pancreas because they couldn't tell what was what. And what they were hoping for was that the bad part, the part of the pancreas that was still like good tissue, but was still producing fluid, was going to dry up and die on its own, which is good and bad because it leaves me less function for my pancreas, but I'm not having the fluid build up in my creating a big pseudocyst in my gut. Anyways, but it wasn't happening like that. As we went along, finally, my surgeon said to me, the gentleman who saved my life, basically said in August 2017, he says, I don't think this is going to get any better, and we're not going to have any choice but to go in and try and do this, and this procedure, and if it works, that'd be great. And if it doesn't, there's a good chance you're going to die. That's what he told me. So, and I must point out to you at this point, my wife had left me. I was on my own. Had no income now for almost 7 months. Life was very dark. I looked at him and said, well, I'm not in any financial position. I'm not really in an emotional position to take care of this right now. So I said, I'd just like to have some time to pray about it and just wait and give it a little bit more time, see what happens. He says, well, whenever you're ready, he said, whatever you want to do. So go ahead and do it. Well, anyways, that was in August. So, but I was getting CT scans done all the time just to check and see what was happening. And it turned out that this piece of pancreas was obviously dying out because it was producing less and less fluid. It got to a point where he said that we could go in and do a procedure that wouldn't be anywhere near as high risk. And that should take care of the problem, and I should be good for the rest of my years. And I thought that was wonderful, right? That was January. So I was scheduled to go in for a procedure in March of 2018, which I did. March 19th, I do believe. I went in. And when they did that procedure, I came out, and my surgeon said to me, he says, well, when we went in, says there must have been some type of spontaneous decompression, is how he put it. Anyways, any of the fluid that was there was gone, so there was nothing there. There was no reason to put a stent in. They'd gone through my stomach, and anyways, they just sewed me up. So here I was with another second large gash on my abdomen, and little did I know about a second hernia as well to go with it. And I was supposed to be out in 4 days. I was supposed to have 5 days sitting. So I did. I was about to get out on that was a Monday. I went in. It was Friday. I was getting out on Saturday. So Friday they were cleaning my wound. You have to pardon my wording here, but as they were cleaning my wound, I'm looking and there's shit coming out of my wound, excrement, actual excrement. And I'm freaking, and I'm telling the nurse, what's going on here? So she's running out of the room, going to get a surgeon, doctor right away. Shortly after that, guess what? I'm going for more emergency surgery. Turns out that when they went in to do that procedure, they had punctured my colon, they had sewed it up, and they didn't even tell me about it. So yeah. So now all of a sudden I was getting ripped open again, and put under anesthesia again. You have to keep in mind here, I've already had a heart attack in my life. Now I've been put under so many times, very high risk. And, I'm just hoping to live at this point. And and they didn't even tell me about puncturing my colon. Now they're putting almost a half inch or 3/4 inch tube into my colon, And so I get out and I got these three smaller tubes and this large one hanging out of my stomach now. And now instead of 5 days, I'm in the hospital for another 6 weeks, plus another 3 more weeks. I should have told you when I got out of the hospital that first time, I was still at home in a chair basically for another year. Housebound, nothing I could do. And anyway, so here I was, another 6 weeks at home and another 6 weeks in the hospital, another few months at home doing nothing. And like I said, I've lost my business. I lost my way of making a living, lost my health, lost my wife, lost my grandkids. And when I was in the hospital this time, just more and more bad news. First, my dog, my female boxer, Miley, passed away on me. And then, literally within a few days, my sister died. I didn't get to go to her funeral. I didn't get to bury my dog. And life just didn't seem very good. Not at all. So, yeah. Anyways, moving right ahead, I got out and I was at home and had to get my wounds taken care of. I had to go for health care with the local nurses. And that was the only bright spot of my day because I had two very nice, actually three or four very nice ladies that I always enjoyed going there, and they cleaned my wounds and we talked and, got along really well, and that was nice. Anyways, so I was sitting at home and I'm thinking, well, so what are we going to do here? We're just going to sit around, we're going to wait to die now? Like, is this everything I worked for? Is that what's going to be like a complete failure all the way around? I was really down. I also learned over the process here that family and friends that you thought were there weren't. When I was in the hospital both those times. I never had one brother in my first 6 months when I was in the hospital. I never had one brother or sister come and see me. I had one brother come see me for a few days the second time, and one sister because she was there in town visiting her son. She came for a few days. God bless her because I really needed it. But I began to really put things together all that time. Friends that I had one friend who showed up. Other friends, church members, nobody came to visit. So you're in the hospital and you begin to realize a lot of things in your life that are not what you thought they were. So it was it was a growing experience. So I'm getting out of hospital. I'm at home, and this whole time, I got to understand, I'm still on high levels of painkiller. I still am to today. I still have to take 4 hits of Dilaudid a day. That's basically a form of morphine. I'm actually allergic to real morphine. Anyways, so here I was. I got out of the hospital, I think, sometime in March, end of April. And then I was housebound for several more months. And then August of 2018, I was fed up. I was depressed. I looked like hell. I felt like hell. I had nothing to lose at this point. I said to myself, if I'm going out of this world, I'm going out on my own terms. And this is the part I hope that other people out there really listen to. So when you think there's nothing left to work for, nothing left to live for, you think that no one's ever gonna want you again, and you're certainly not gonna have a relationship. I was struggling to keep a roof over my head. Little did I know I was going to lose the house eventually too. There's not one positive thing happening in your life other than Jesus Christ. That was it. Which is not a bad thing. I read my Bible every day, and I had my prayers every day, and it started my day right. But that's the only thing that was going well. Through that process, I went out and I did a rescue, and I picked up an American bulldog, and his name is Hauser. One of these days, I'm going to bring him on camera because he was actually the inspiration for the name of my company, Bill Ferris Training. Great dog. He needed to be rescued, and I need to be rescued. So we were a good team. Anyways, so there I was, August of 2018. And I decided I'm going back to the gym. I am going to go back and see if I can do anything because I do not want to feel like this. I do not want to look like this. So I went over to, it was an Anytime Fitness here in Stony Plain, with a very nice lady, Glenda. And anyways, I came on to Glenda and I told her, I said, look, I don't know if my body can even take this, but can we do this month to month so I can just see what happens? And she agreed. Very nice lady. And I did my first training session, and it was hard, it was brutal, and I certainly wasn't pushing in any way, shape, or form. And I did that for a month. I didn't miss a workout. It was just one of the other only high points of my day. So I trained. Didn't train like I was before, but I was training. So I hit her, and then after about a month, one thing I should also tell you, I did also mention before that I went from 230 pounds to 169 pounds. And in those whole 2 years, I was not able to gain a pound. I couldn't get above 169. My food tasted like crap. I had no appetite. My stomach is having all types of issues and digestive issues because of what they did surgically. Anyway, so I decided I need to come up with a plan here. And I decided I'm going to start training hard. So I ramped it up slowly, up between September and the end of December. So the end of September, I'd say, so October, November, December, in 3 months, I went from 169 pounds to 205 pounds. And I got all body fat. I still had the hernias. I still had to be aware of them. I still had to take medication, high level painkillers to do it. And I had to take, I'd go home, I'd do a workout, I'd have to sleep for several hours. And I needed to do this for me mentally. I was just losing it. And so there I was looking at, and the other part I should tell you is that I actually went back into HIT training. After my first 6 weeks, I said, I'm going back taking ramping this right up. So I was literally only training once every, I was training Monday, Wednesday, Friday. I do about 40 minutes. I was only doing about 5 sets, actually 3 working sets, 2 warm-ups. That's it. Those are my workouts. And in January of 2019, I decided that I'm going back on the stage. So here I am, 59 years old, and I'm starting to get into the best shape of my life other than dealing with this hernia, which I still don't know what I'm going to have to do. Because a little bit of backtracking, I've had to talk with 2 surgeons. One surgeon in particular told me that if I had the hernia surgery, I could actually die from it. Anyways, I'm hoping for some better news than that, anyways, as time goes on. But I decided I'm getting ready for a show. So I was all ready to do the show in 2019, 2020 here. I was planning to do a show in Edmonton in October. But what I want to show you is go back once again to a picture. Bear with me. I hated to even show that to anybody. This was a picture of me. I'm going to show you 3 months after 3 months after training again. This is me at 205 pounds. I'm still self-conscious about the bumps from my hernia. I wish I had a front shot, but you can tell that I had got some good development back. Completely natural, no drugs. And I have to tell you, when I got out of the hospital, I looked at myself, I thought, this is actually what anabolics were originally developed for. People with growth problems or regenerative tissue problems. That's what they invented them for, and sport just obliterated that. I thought nobody's gonna, if you go on TRT therapy, no one's gonna blame you. So you just get your body back as quick as possible and your strength back. Yeah, but I weighed that out and I said, no, I'm gonna do it the right way. So this is me training on HIT, which you saw there, this picture. That's what I looked like when I went in there. That's 3 months later. It's not a word of a lie. Anyways, so I'm hoping that's, me being brave enough to show that to anybody. I'm hoping that people will take that as inspiration. So, but the sad part was, of course, as everybody knows, come March, I thought, if I had 8 or 9 months to prepare, another 6 months or 5 months to 6 months of really hard, heavy training, and then prep for the show with all the stuff that I know now about prepping for shows and winning. I wasn't just going to compete, I was going to win, and not in the over 55. I was going into, classic physique and whatever weight class I ended up in. And then COVID-19 got there. It was very, I got to tell you, I don't know which was worse, the first time around or this time around. All that hard work that I put in was starting to go down the toilet. It was really getting to me. I didn't lose everything, but I wasn't able to train at all. My diet got a little bit looser. Not terrible. I've never been a bad eater. But anyways, yeah, I was devastated when the gyms closed. But like everything else, I want to tell you, I saw a silver lining. I said, you know what? This is never going to happen to me again. I have always wanted to have a gym, but I've never wanted to have a public gym. So I saw the opportunity, which is what I'm doing now. I'm putting together a private training facility. I'm also manufacturing gym equipment, something that I think they always get wrong. So I'm doing equipment. Always, I didn't tell you about all those times I was doing personal training as I went along as well, but now it's my focus of my life. I do private training, personal training, gym equipment manufacturing, and I'm completely motivated. I won't be able to, I don't think I'll be able to do that show in October, although I'm going to see how much I can bring my training up here now. But I guarantee you, good Lord willing, come spring or early summer, I will be back on the stage at 60 years old and completely natural, completely clean. And for nothing else, just to illustrate to you people out there, for all those that think that, that you can't get anywhere, that you get to a certain age or you can't do it natural or or you've had hardship or things get in the way, there's always light at the end of the tunnel. There's always light at the end of the tunnel, okay? So I want you people to, if anything else from here, I want you to just take away the idea that ignore what's going on around you. Create a goal, stay natural. Don't even consider the other way. Just stay natural, okay? I want you to go at it hard, believe in yourself. You know, I mean, it's my way of doing things, but I wish everybody believed in God and Jesus Christ. I really do. Saved my life many years along with training, but training is what has kept me alive. It got me through my heart attack. It got me through a lot of other dark spots in my life, and I haven't told you about it on screen here. I'm actually writing a book, and I'm hoping to have that out by the spring. Do an e-edition anyways to show off with and see what happens. Give you a lot more detail of early life and as things went along and, the ups and downs and the hardships and a lot more detail about the later years as well. And just know that you can accomplish things, but the thing I won't tell you is it's not going to be easy. It's not going to be easy. It can be done, and you will feel so good about it. On the bad days, those black days, those days will come and go, but those good days will seem so good, so good. So believe in yourself, stay true to yourself, love yourself, and believe that there's something and someone out there for each and every one of us. Anyways, I hope you found this interesting. I hope it found it at least a little bit inspiring. Um, yeah, and I'd love to hear from you. Comments, contact me either at my website, bofierstraining.com, or, I'm also on Instagram, I'm on Twitter. I also started a Facebook group called Canadian Fitness and Natural Canadian Fitness Bodybuilding, something like that. It's a public group. You should be able to look it up. Anyways, everybody, I want you to take care. You have a good weekend. And don't forget, train both fears.